Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you your hosts, Spencer and Lara Williams.
Hey everyone, I'm Spencer.
I'm Lara, and we're married with board games. In this Kickstarter preview, we're looking at a game with a rarely used theme, and that's Flocked.
Flocked is a 2 to 4 player game of shepherds vying for lead shepherd status. To do that, a shepherd must overcome animal attacks, sickness, famine, sheep thieves, bandits, and even wandering sheep.
The game is played over calendar years, and in each round or month, players will have a chance to play cards to gain sheep in their flock, attack their opponents, and gain wealth. The first player to 100 sheep wins.
So let's head over to the table and the prototype for a closer look at how the game plays.
With this being a Kickstarter, this is obviously a prototype, not finished product. So the finished product will look different than this. I do want to go ahead and walk you through the components and what they are for. First of all, you have your instruction manual, of course. You've got your coins, the currency for the game that you're going to be using to buy sheep, to be able to buy items, that sort of thing. You've got silver, gold, bronze, all the different values. Main focus of the game are these boards, and there are 4 of them, one for each player. And you see on one side it goes all the way up to from 1 to 50, and then on the back it'll go from 51 to 100. So when you're playing a full game, you go, whoever gets to 100 sheep first wins. And then what you're going to be doing is you take your little sheep meeple, and this is how you keep track of your sheep. So everybody starts at 25, and then in a shorter game, the first person to 50 wins, and then of course in a longer game, first person to 100 wins. Over here on the side, there's the exchange rate for sheep and the money, and then there is an exchange rate for how many, like for example in this case, bronze equals 1 silver, how many silver equal gold. And then down here, this tells you how much money you get when you shear your sheep at the end of every shearing season. So again, everybody gets one of these. It's all to keep track of how many sheep you get. Next, everybody has a summary card. So on one side, it's going to be your order of play, draw cards, and then play cards, trade cards, and then you have the option to discard if you have more than 7 cards. And then on the back, it tells you what to do when you gain flocked points. So flocked points are a way to do extra abilities that you wouldn't normally do. These are flocked points, and you get these when if you have the option to gain sheep and you give a sheep to an opponent, you get a flock point. So it's definitely a tricky decision to be made. Should I gain sheep or should I give them away so that I can get flock points? Over here, it's essentially the turn tracker, and these are your calendars really. You've got spring, 3 months in spring, 3 months in summer, 3 months in autumn, and then 3 months in winter. And at the end of every season, you do certain things. In certain months, like month 5 and month 10, you're going to be doing certain things. And you keep track of which month you're on by moving your little sheep token. And each round is a month. So once everybody takes a turn in the first month, you move on to month 2. And so that's how this works and what this is for. This is a wilderness tracker. What this will do is show how many sheep are available to find in the wilderness. Anytime you lose sheep, the number goes up. And anytime you find sheep in the wilderness, the number goes down. If you draw a card that says, find 3 sheep in the wilderness, but there's only 1 sheep in the wilderness, you can't draw those, you can't gain those sheep. So this keeps track of the sheep in the wilderness. There are, of course, cards in the game, and there are several different types. This is an example of some gear. So you've got a staff that adds defense. Shears, if you have that, you gain more money at the end of shearing season. And then a pasture card. This is how you keep your sheep from season to season. So you definitely want to hold on to those and play those. You have things like slings. So this is going to have points for defense and also to help find your sheep. And then this is the cost. That's how much it costs to buy it. Sheepdog, of course, no sheep game would be complete without a sheepdog. Again, here's your cost. Some values on there. And then these are the cards you can play on your opponent. So like sick sheep, you're going to be playing this on your opponents, and this makes you lose sheep if they're sick. And then you've got nighttime robber. So the nighttime robber is going to steal sheep. And then wolves are going to attack. You have to roll to try to defend against the wolves, and if you don't succeed, you lose 2 sheep from your flock. Mentioned rolling, so of course you need dice too. So that about covers it. Brief overview of Flocked.
All right, now that you have had a brief overview of how the game works, what comes with it, obviously it's not a final product, but it's a good idea of what you're getting. Let's have some thoughts. Let's start with the presentation, the look of it, the artwork. I would say the artwork's pretty basic.
Yeah, it's kind of cartoony.
Cartoony feel. It's definitely appropriate for the style of game it is.
Right, I think so.
Yeah, it fits a more family style game. Definitely indicative of the style. So, and then of course we don't really want to comment on the components because they're not final. So, but I mean, it is what it is. Let's talk about the different modes of the game. There are 2 modes, the Big Shepherd.
Big Shepherd and Little Shepherd.
Right. What are your thoughts on the differences in the 2 modes?
Well, in Big Shepherd with the money management, I really actually liked that a lot. But it is a little tricky just because it all comes down to luck of the draw, of what cards you have in your hand, and then having to play money or pay money in order to play them. Whereas in the Little Shepherd mode, the money isn't there. It doesn't matter. You can play cards however you want. So they're equally. I mean, they're different, and there's just that extra degree in the Big Shepherd.
Right. Well, I think they're appropriate for very specific situations, and that's not to say that the Little Shepherd mode, even though it's called Little Shepherd, it doesn't mean it's always for like kids.
Right.
We played
both.
We played the Big Shepherd mode, and then we actually played the Little Shepherd mode after that, and it was kind of refreshing. Yeah. Because it was a nice lighter take on the game. It wasn't as much thinking, and you're just drawing cards, and it was a pleasant experience. So even if you like a more strategic type game, it does work still. In that Little Shepherd mode.
Definitely.
And you said you like the money management.
I do.
There's a nice aspect to it.
And at the shearing seasons, seeing how much money you get for those. And
well, and you mentioned seasons, so that is one thing. In the Big Shepherd mode, there are several different seasons that occur throughout the game. And different things happen in those seasons. Like you said, shearing season, there's like a market season, and then the lambing season.
There's lambing season as well.
Right. And so we had to consult the rule book several times to remember what happened and when they happened.
Right, because there are steps to them, and we wanted to make sure we were getting them in the right order. Right.
So we think, just our opinion, that it would be beneficial to have some kind of a season summary that stands outside of the rule book.
Possibly on that card, on those cards that the seasons are on. Yeah. Why not have printed below that a summary of what happens?
What happens and when they happen.
Right. Yeah. And with that, with our game, there are tokens to put on the cards to indicate when those seasons happen. And I think it would be just as easy just to print it on the card, so I'm not having to. I understand. It might be because in the Little Shepherd game you don't use them. Maybe. But then it's just arbitrary, and you don't really have to pay attention to them.
Right. So we think it'd be beneficial to have an additional, summary of those instead of getting the rule book out and consulting that every single time.
I must say, this point is a running theme for us with this game. That there are things that just need further explanation out there on the table.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It's all there in the rule book.
Yes.
But there are some things, and we'll get to those here in a second, that might have sped the game a little bit more if we didn't have to keep consulting the rule book on them. So why don't we go ahead and get into that now?
Okay.
Another example of that would be the cards. There were a few cards. One specifically was the
Nighttime Bandits, I believe.
Yeah, there's a card where you can, do some stealing or thieving of items from another player.
Right, but the card, the way it's written, the text on there is, I didn't know that I could target like a specific item in my opponent's arsenal and immediately remove that item. Yeah. And
because it's not all written out on the card itself. Those rules are in the rule book.
The text on the card doesn't make me think this needs more. It looks like on the card that's all you need to know. Yeah. there's
But there
nothing
is
to
more to it.
indicate there's more in the rule book that you need.
Right.
And there are just sometimes, there are those cards in other games that they're indicative of. For further explanation, consult the rule book. I felt like what was on the card was clear enough.
Yeah.
And then we looked back later and went, oh, there's more.
Right. So again, all the information is there in the rule book, but it just would have been nice to have that information on the card itself to make that clear to us. So let's see. Anything else as far as how the game plays that you want to add? Or do you think we covered it all?
I feel like that's a pretty good overview of it.
Yeah. And so for those reasons, we think it's probably more, would you say, more of a family style game?
Definitely a family game.
Yeah, not too strategic, but it's light enough and fun enough, especially with the artwork, that we think is better suited for families.
Definitely.
So Flocked has an audience in families and younger gamers. It can grow in complexity as the children get older, but it also still has the option to remain a lighter and quicker game.
And while we don't particularly feel this is a good fit for hardcore gamers, the decisions to be made do provide enough substance to be enjoyed by someone looking for a unique theme and not an overly complex game.
We want to thank you so much for watching this Kickstarter preview. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit us on our website, marriedwithbg.com.